Okay, the projector's working again for week 22 ELA, and we are beginning our study of poetry. So, I'll leave my cheat sheet up a little bit. But okay, class, so we should now be on our poem, and so we have just finished reading aloud all of I Am from Quisqueya La Bella, which I believe, Bella, I think I'm saying correctly, and I fully anticipate to be corrected a lot in this unit. This is not my heritage as much as it is many of the people in this room, and so I'm just a person here to learn. And this gives us a lot of material to discuss. So we'll start with turning off the walkie-talkies. That is making a little too much noise. And when we're going through poetry and how it differs from prose is that we're going to see a lot more figurative language. Now, is it true that prose never uses figurative language? Okay, I would see some mixed reactions. I disagree with the people who say that there can't be figurative language in prose. Of course there can be. We saw it in Esperanza, where we saw personification, and we saw simile and metaphor. We saw an extended metaphor. So there can be, definitely there can be figurative language, but the difference is that with poetry, I like poetry because it doesn't have to play by the same rules. As you know, you've had to write prose, you've had to write essays and short answer responses, and there's all these rules. Not if you agree, there's rules that you have to play by where you have to use certain sentence structure, you have to use your periods, and you have to separate everything exactly how we tell you. Not as many rules in poetry. And we're going to talk a lot about that. Okay, so first things first, to get out in front of the vernacular, so what you need to be using to refer to different parts of the poem. I am. That is a line, okay? Only 2 words. Now, does anybody see any grammatical errors that makes this not a sentence? How is this not a sentence? Yeah, it's not. There's no period, okay? I am. And there's not even really a predicate. Like, if any of you wrote this in your short answer responses, you probably would not score very high, right? I am. Not saying enough. But the author of the poem decided they made a choice, and they decided that this is powerful to say I am. And people write for very different reasons. And you know what? A lot of times when it comes to poetry, and some of you may like this and some of you may be scared by this, I can't even understand fully. And Mr. Vries may read the same poetry that I read, and we may have completely different reads of what it means. I personally always feel like I just don't understand, okay? And I see some people brain matching right now that they don't understand either, they feel that way. But what's cool is that even if you feel like you don't understand, and I think that that's rooted in me just not reading enough poetry, you can always just make up your own idea of it. So that's our first word is line. So go ahead right now and take 30 seconds and tell us how many lines appear in this poem, I Am from Quisqueya La Bella. Okay? And we have our answer. We're going to go back through with that in just a second and talk about how many lines are in each stanza. Now, I used another word a couple of times now. That word is stanza. This is a stanza. And just like authors of poetry get to decide how many words they want to put on each line, they also get to choose how many lines they want to put in each stanza. I wonder why the writer chose to take a break after this 4-line territory and jump to another one. I'll bet it means something. I'll bet they made a choice for a reason, that they thought that the way that we would read the poem would be different. Do you think that maybe we would read the poem differently if the whole thing from top to bottom was one big stanza? Do you think any poems are like that? Yeah, they are. That's how Shakespeare wrote poetry, and it's called sonnets. But this is a little bit more contemporary, and it's separated for us. I think it's much more digestible, because now we can look at each stanza and try to figure out what it means. Okay? So we just read this top to bottom as a class. Now we're going to read this individually, and I want you to come up with try and think, what does each stanza mean? Okay, think about that while you go. And we're back. Now, you've had some time. So first of all, I have so many questions. As you know, Mr. Morgan does not speak Spanish. So when I read, I am from Quisqueya la Bella, which, as I understand, means Quisqueya the angry. Is that, it's not, no, it's not, it's beautiful. Good. Now, from, and I'm going to call on somebody to help me with this word. Thank you. And I'm going to call on, and what does that mean? Okay. And I still need to go back and look at and make sure I know what these words mean. But I'm going to get some help with these words. Good. So interesting. So it's like my cultural heritage is not familiar with these terms, and so maybe this is about a different culture than what I'm used to. We've also got some. Okay. So moving on to the next stanza. Let's take a second and just look at that.